The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Having your dad transported somewhere and someone else by aliens can be really traumatic for a young girl. See what Amber and Scott would do as they discuss Watch the Skies. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
UFOs. What the hell?
I don't know what to do with you.
I don't do a good Swedish accent.
Yes, I feel like I'm watching an episode of the Muppets.
Well, that's pretty much your life, though.
Yeah. Although I prefer the Muppets. Alrighty, folks. This episode, we are talking about Watch the Skies. UFO Sweden is a club of weirdos and outsiders that investigate supernatural phenomenon. One day, teenage rebel Denise shows up with a case unlike anything they've ever seen before. Her father didn't run away. He was abducted by aliens. Together, they embark on an adventure that takes them far beyond the boundaries of the law and ultimately our world.
Did you say phenomenon?
Phenomenon. Phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Well, I wasn't going to go with the whole thing. Since we were already talking about Muppets.
Yeah. So, yes, we have a main character, a teenage girl named Denise, whose dad disappeared when she was a young girl as he went out to go and find something that it was of the extraterrestrial nature that either was going to happen or had happened, and he didn't come back. So we suspect 10 years or so has passed. Her dad is missing still, and apparently the car that he was in somehow crashes through a farm roof one night, and off we are to the races.
We get wormholey in the end.
Yeah, when you start talking about wormholes, that's when my head starts hurting a little bit.
Yeah, it's difficult to think about things being in 4 dimensions.
Yeah, and I know, there's a lot of science behind those conversations, but I don't know if my head can wrap around.
Actually, it's very simple. Where you're sitting right now, that your height, width, depth, that's where you're at.
Right.
But at that exact same height, width, and depth, at say an hour ago, you weren't there. So it's 2 points on the map. It's the location of it and the time it's at that location.
Yeah, I understand the concept that time is the 4th construct, but beyond that, it starts making my head hurt. So we have this group, UFO Sweden, who take calls from a tip line of things that people saw, some lights or activity, and they call in tips. And it turns out that one of the main leaders of UFO Sweden is a guy who used to be Denise's dad's partner, and Denise starts collaborating with them to try and figure out what the story is with the car that came back and UFOs in general of what's happening there and related to weather patterns. And there are a lot of ups and downs throughout this film, and we ultimately end with I don't even know how to describe it, crashing through to another dimension, being lost in extraterrestrial space for 2 years and then coming back. Oh,
I mean, I don't think it felt 2 years to them, but because of the concept of a wormhole. But I did find it funny when they came back that all of a sudden he thought he was in the 1300s until...
Yeah, because they were woken up by some cosplay people.
Yeah.
So, the topic here I think is a real juicy one, and the fact of just talking about extraterrestrials and life in other... what is the right word when you talk about different time frames, different
dimensions?
I guess this is when I used to watch the TV show The Flash, and I don't know, somewhere along episode or season 3, it started talking about different timelines, and that's when my head started to hurt. Is when we started talking about time. That relates to our conversation about time a couple minutes ago.
Oh yeah, well I mean, we saw Deadpool and Wolverine. When he had to go through the portal looking at all the various Wolverines and all the various different places. So
let's start off with something basic. Do you believe in extraterrestrials?
So it's weird. For us, no. In general, yes.
Okay, elaborate.
Well, okay, great. We get to have Scott's theories of religion and everything on this.
Warning.
Yeah. I mean, we're not real. We are the simulation of a higher civilizations trying to figure out what they want to do with their civilization. They're really running us.
Okay, you have your own wackadoodle theories, but we're talking about outer space.
But within the
here.
simulation, no. I don't think there probably is anything else.
So
because they don't need to program anything else.
Okay, set aside your whole programming theory because that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here about life in outer space.
If I was convinced that this was actual reality, I mean, obviously it's our reality, but if I was, then yes, I would say there probably is. The likelihood of us being the only thing out there is really, really small. Now, whether or not...
Let's have an explainer here real briefly for folks who don't know your simulation theory. In short, Scott has a theory that all of us here are part of a simulation and that nothing here is real, that it's somehow being... anything that we see, anything that we experience is being simulated through some sort of computer.
And then that's when sometimes you hit those things that are completely freaking unexplainable. I don't know, your wind chime is cut in 4 places all at once and falls, or giant crop circles. The first one happened to us. Or giant crop circles, or things that just have no explanation. The explanation is there was a bug in the program.
There was some sort of glitch in the simulation of the program.
Okay, that explains anything that's unexplainable.
Okay, so that is Scott's theory on life on Earth. Let's suppose, for the sake of this conversation, you did not have that
yeah,
theory.
Then yes.
And we're just talking about, is there life in outer space?
Even my theory, though, says that there is a higher being which is doing this. So, yes. I'm just saying within our reality, no, but within the greater scope of the entire multiverse, yes, there absolutely are other forms of life. Now, again, whether or not anything has achieved the ability to essentially get from one to another.
What do you mean get to one to another?
Well, I mean, you have to have life on a planet, and then you have to be able to get to another planet that has life.
So there can only be life on planets? There can't be life in space?
I mean, I suppose there could. I mean, anything's possible. I mean, the truth is if I said no, I'd be ridiculous. I just truly don't know. I think the probability is extremely high that we are not the only ones out there. But again, within my simulation and everything, I don't see why the alien species would necessarily need to put in multiple civilizations within their simulation. They really only need one. Yeah.
Okay, so folks might have been expecting to hear whether or not you were a UFO enthusiast or someone who got into that, but now we've learned that about your whole simulation theory, which I'm sure...
I watched X-Files.
Okay. So I do not necessarily share your whole we're part of a simulation thing. I believe that we are just here. And as such, I'm very open to the concept of why in the world, out of this entire solar system, out of this entire universe, why would there just be life on Earth that looked and sounded like us? Why? The universe is so vast. It feels self-centered and self-involved to me, saying, no, we're the only form of intelligent life.
There is some species out there to which we are effing disgusting. Oh my God! What's that coming out of their torso? Oh, it's like 4 appendages!
Yes, we are quite repelling. That reminds me of an episode of The Twilight Zone, the original Rod Serling Twilight Zone, where you see the world through a woman's eyes, and you just see what she's seeing. And she sees all of these medical professionals that have pig faces and snouts and pig ears and whatnot. And they're like, they're trying to walk her through a procedure, and, oh, that she's so ugly. And, oh, gosh, we're going to try and fix you. And we're going to have this whole procedure and make you less hideous because you're just grotesque. And they go through this whole thing of her just seeing wait.
I'm assuming they eventually turned her from a human to a pig.
Hang on. You didn't see that they were pigs. I messed up. You didn't see that they were pigs. You just saw activity in a medical. I'm sorry. This is taking way too long.
Yeah,
but hang on. I need to finish.
We have gone so off the rails on this episode.
I need to finish it.
I understand closure.
Well, no, I mean, someone might be interested in what I'm saying. So anyway, I'm sorry. You do not see that they're pigs. You just see that they're medical professionals, and you see the medical coats, and you see the medical environment and the surgical instruments and whatnot. And they're saying, she's hideous, and you're going to fix her. And then at the end, you realize all of the medical staff have face like pigs, and she has a fake human being. And that's why they think she's so repulsive. So that goes exactly to what you were saying. Anyway, sorry, folks.
Yes,
that took a long time.
Eye of the Beholder, 1959. I found
Eye of the Beholder. Anyway, sorry about that sidetrack, folks. But anyway, yes, I do believe that there is life out there, and I don't know. I guess this is where my head starts hurting about when you start talking about alternate universes and multiverses and different timelines. Like the fact that Denise's dad was missing for 10 years, but then they slipped through some sort of alternate reality in a car, the car that was his car that crashed through the farm earlier in the film, and then they wind up in this some sort of sandscape where her dad is. And then that's kind of where my head starts hurting.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, the idea in general, I mean, it does go back to Einstein, is that, and I may not even have this perfect, but the gravitational pull of a black hole is so immense that nothing can escape it. And it essentially it doesn't kill you, it turbo boosts you. It bends the universe. And it essentially picks you up on one side and spits you out another. Like you don't know where the other, you don't know where it is, you don't know when it is.
Like a sheet of paper, if you folded it in half or bent it in half and going from the left side to the right side, just going straight through it, if you were to have bent that piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean, essentially,
Science is fascinating, and I love science, but when you get to smart people science, that's when I start, I just don't even... I can't fathom how people Einstein grasped and analyzed and discussed the things that they did. It is so far beyond my realm of understanding.
It's not as far beyond my realm, but I'm also no Einstein. I'm no theoretical physicist or anything like that. I have generalized ideas as to what they're talking about, but if you wanted to get into a real intelligent conversation, no, I'm not your guy.
One of the what would you do's in this film that I thought was worth exploring is you have this group of UFO enthusiasts who are part of UFO Sweden that are 5 people there. And the main character, Denise, pulls them in and then says something to alienate them, and then pulls them in for help, and then somehow is discredited, and then pulls them in and then misleads them, and then they walk away. There are so many... We work together. No, I hate you. We work together. I don't trust you. We work together. I don't want anything to do with you. Ups and downs. I was just curious if that was something you either had any experience with or thoughts on about where the lines are with people, how much people should put up with when it comes to that kind of up and down relationship, because it felt jarring to be like all of these come together, thrust apart kind of moments throughout the film with this group. And
yeah,
Denise.
very very bipolar-esque. That said, I'm just going to note that I thought the writing in this movie was reasonably awful, especially as it came to dialogue and character development. The plot line was fun, but the way the characters interacted with each other was just it was way the hell out there. So, I mean, that said, I have dealt with those run very hot and cold people, and eventually they can only run cold on me so many times, because if you run cold on me too many times, I'm just eventually going to be, you are not worth it. And I have unfriended people that way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What if you were in Denise's shoes? She's around 7 or so, and her dad goes out to have a look at some sort of alien UFO activity and never comes back. How do you rectify that? Assuming you buy into this world of UFOs and activity and whatnot.
I mean, I might have turned out where'd my daddy go? Let me devote my life to figuring out where my daddy is. Though, I do have two what would you do or what would I do type situations. Number one, if I was going to have a UFO club in Sweden, I'd probably come up with a better name than UFO Sweden.
It's clear. I mean, no confusing what that club is.
Number two, if I were going into the building of another organization that sees us as a threat,
I would not wear the jacket that said UFO Sweden.
I would not wear the UFO Sweden jacket into that just feels like a red freaking flag.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking the same thing. You're breaking in, you are considered the bad guys, and you're wearing a big jacket that says, hey.
Hi, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I knew exactly where you were going with that. I completely agree. If I was cold and needed to wear my jacket, I would take it off and turn it inside out at a minimum.
Yeah, that was sloppy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel most of our what would you do centered around aliens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an alien movie. Makes sense. I mean, all I know is the truth is out there.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.